What's up guys, Make sure here back in another video. Today's video is a 250 subscriber special. As I check the channel, make free suggestions. I know there's some like Theroy 1 All Stars, but first of all, I want to wait till all episodes of All Stars is out, till I actually make All Star videos in this venture camp. Also doing a lot more variety in the channel, getting through my notes as fast as I can. Thank you guys for waiting for so long. I also have my own ideas as well, which I'd like to get around to eventually. So, and I might make a video on just maybe an update video on the channel while I'm planning to do in the future, but if you want that, let me know. That's up to you guys. If not, then it's fair enough. But anyway, so theories on season 5 of You. So in case you guys aren't aware of what You is a show where the main character, Joe Goldberg, the protagonist, basically journey we know is a character in the Netflix series You. So You is basically, how do I explain this? Alright, so You is basically he wants to be loved, and his obsession with love and things. He basically is kind of sees how far is willing to go. I recommend You. It's a really good series, but I know there's some categories you're questioning. I didn't name this category with Joe and Kate because they're together. I didn't name this category because they're together at the moment. This category is the identities Joe's taken throughout the series, and this is when Joe's married, characters in prison, and impossible returns, as well as the characters who have died throughout the show. So, let's begin my theories. So, I'll quickly go over what happened in season 4. This is a spoiler warning. If you've not seen season 4, I will be referencing a lot of the seasons. I should probably say at the start of the video, but anyway, 1, 2, 3. Into season 4, Joe framed Nadia for killing Edward, and Nadia got sent to prison. Now, this was the first real time we saw Joe, to a younger character, do something that evil. Because when you look at Dr. Nikki, yes, Moiti was evil, but I mean, Dr. Nikki was a lot older than Nadia. And the thing is, he actually did seem to get on with Nadia pretty well throughout the early points of the season. Like, he got that letter for her. Because Joe never actually did that to any of the characters. Like, he never did anything to, like, Ellie and Paco. They were kind of the two characters Joe looked out for in the series. Season 1 and 2 in particular. You could say Theo to an extent, but Theo was more kind of for love, looking out for him rather than anyone else. But the point we're trying to get at is Nadia's in prison. So what will happen at the end of the series? Well, I got a few theories on how I think it could end and characters who could return. So I'm going to start with the theory is my first character, that's Paco's mother, is we're going to talk about the bookshop. I believe the bookshop, Joseph, is the same bookshop he gets in season 1, because they're in New York. That's where Joe's originally from. That's where the series began. Because obviously, when you think about it, he traveled in Los Angeles, London. But now that Joe has made these stories, Kate's covered for him, and has changed identities, Joe can practically get away with anything. At this point, he has the financial, he has the power, and Joe makes it like that he's the poor victim in situations that wasn't exactly the case. Like, took out Beck. Season 3 took out Love. Now, I'm not getting to the argument whether or not the Love situation, but the point we're getting at here is Will. So, obviously, these identities Will. So, my first possible theory is for Joe is because Joe's got his name clear, we will see the return of Henry. Now, I don't have a picture of Henry. I know Brandon was looking out for him, but that's why that's there. So Henry is basically the son of Love and Joe. Joe has his name cleared. I believe Henry will be the one to come back to Joe. Now, a year and a half has passed, so I think Henry's about 3 or 4 at this point. I imagine Henry would be a kid at this point, maybe around Paco's age, when we first see him, which would make some sense. And that's pretty cool if that was the case. I think Henry possibly could have come back as a return. because he's still out there. We don't know what happened to Henry. We don't know his update. We don't even know if Joe's checked on him or what, or anything like that. So, my next possible theory, the deaths, I will explain how this will affect. And my first theory is someone will defeat Joe. A team up or something. And I believe Dr. Nikki and Nadia is the key. And I think we'll see a cameo of them. I don't think they will be in his main characters, but I think if Nadia and Dr. Nikki come forward, and I believe Jacob, I thought about this for a while, and I know it sounds crazy, but Jacob is the detective on the case. So in case you guys don't know, Jacob is the brother, or half-brother, Joe Goldberg. When Sandy ran away and Joe was in the boys' home, he found a hated brother. So my theory is that this Jacob is similar to Joe, but he's the opposite of what Joe is. So he's a detective. He's the one trying to get Joe out to find Joe. Because in the Dr. Nikki, there's a scene where this guy's asking about Joe Goldberg. I believe the end of season 1. I want to say it's the end of season 1. I don't actually remember the scene, but let me know in the comments if I'm correct about this. But I believe he was on about trying to find him, and I believe this. It's not confirmed, but I think this character is the present day version of Jacob. That is not confirmed. I have no information or anything like that. That is just me theorizing. I believe this character is going to be a very important character. Because Dr. Nick was framed for Beck's mode. Nadia was framed for Edward. Two characters who knew Joe to some level. Nadia knew him as Jonathan Moore. Dr. Nick knew him as Joe Goldberg. Jacob's going to realize that they're actually the same person. Bill Bethelheim is going to realize that Joe stole his identity at one point, and he's going to realize the real Will was killed. And he's going to realize all the victims. He's saying, now I can send 40, Candace, Dial, Peach, Nadia, Benji, the real Will Bethelheim, Gil. I'm sorry, he didn't take out Gil, loved it. Adam, Simon, Gemma, Malcolm, Vic, Love, and Beck. Now, I have a theory that Love could be alive, but I feel like that isn't the case. But I do have an interesting one how it could work, but I'll get into that later. So, Henry will return to Joe. Joe will make it like he's the poor victim, and he'll do something to Henry back. I think he really cared about Henry. I do think he cared about him, because he didn't take, like, I don't know, I just feel Henry will come back. He's an important character, and it's just out there. We don't know what happened. My first theory, this will need a time skip. Henry will defeat Joe, and we'll see more Mr. Rooney and that, but Henry will defeat Joe. Henry, Ellie, Paco, and Jacob. So basically, a time skip will happen, and Henry, he's living with Joe, but he wants to learn, in case maybe an argument or something, in case that child's not even mine, and he's like, okay, what happened to my mother? Where's my mom? Why aren't you speaking about my mom? Why aren't you speaking about love? Well, he doesn't know it's love, but I think as we're getting through this journey, I would say Henry's maybe about 16, 17, 18, maybe. Roughly around this age for this to work. A few years have to have passed, quite a while. And we see a vision of love. I believe Love comes back as a ghost or some vision, and she says she's guiding them. Like, it's like he's guiding her son. She's guiding her son through Joe. She's trying to exploit Joe in a way where she can't do it because she's not there, but she's doing it to help them. And I think that would be pretty cool if Henry was the one to take out Joe. With Ellie, because Ellie was still sent money in season 2. I think in an interview it stated that Ellie was still sent money event was still sent money after the event of season 2, but it just was never seen. Which is a possible reason why Joe still gets a job, was because to pay for Ellie for the future, because Ellie is on her own. And if you got to remember, she had nobody. And Paco, of course, Paco saw the murders. Ellie knew him as well. I think Ellie possibly knew him as Joe as well. Paco would have known him as Joe, and they would have got the characters Sherry and Carrie, maybe Marianne. I don't know, maybe Marianne's out of the equation. And I think they may have tracked down Sandy here, assuming Sandy's still alive at this point. They would track her down. And Roald, obviously, I don't think Roald was that important here. But they will track down Roald and hear his story. And I think they'll probably go to Lady Phoebe, where she went in the end of the series, assuming she's even in the picture. She's teaching. She's obviously not there with the others. But I think Henry will take out Joe. I think that's a possible theory. Henry could arrest him. Maybe he's killed. Joe's killed. I feel like if it was Henry, Henry would have to arrest him, and it would kind of be a kind of satisfying ending, because it's kind of like when Luke took out Vader, his father, and Vader took out the Emperor when he turned back to Anakin. That's kind of what I think will happen for that theory. Now, I know it's a bit far-fetched, but I think it's an interesting one. But for this theory to work, for the theory with Henry, there has to be a time skip. That's the only way it works. So, my next possible theory is where we have, so Henry's out. Okay, so another theory I have, that's one way it could end. So another way, and something I want to do first before I get into how I think they'll end. We'll see Mr. Mooney and Sandy. Mr. Mooney. So Mr. Mooney was the bookstore owner of Joe. We'll see what happened to him. Maybe he died. Maybe Joe killed him. We don't know. So I think we'll learn more about Mr. Mooney. Mr. Mooney seemed a very important character in Joe's life. So I think he'll possibly return. Maybe not as a major character, but he was pretty important. So the one character I think that needs to come back, not Mr. Mooney, not Marianne, Lady Phoebe, even though it'd be cool for them to come back. I think Sandy and Jacob need to come back. Need to come into the series now. Sandy needs to return in the modern day. Why? Well, we've never seen Sandy in the modern day. We've only ever seen her in flashbacks. So Sandy is Joe's mother, who, of course, as you guys know, is a very important character in the series, especially for Joe's backstory. We don't really know much about Joe's backstory. We don't really know much about his mother. And the thing is, I think she will actually be pretty important. And I think another theory I have is Sandy will also help take down Joe, which she will kind of blame herself for what's happened, I believe. And I think a theory there is Sandy helps Jacob. Maybe Henry's with Sandy at this point. I don't know. I know he wasn't with her originally, but I mean, it's kind of odd. Maybe she's not around anymore. But if Sandy is still around, then perhaps she would want to get some closure and make things up what she said to Joe when he was younger. She helps Ellie and Paco and all that, and I think that's what would happen. Now, I think Ethan will more than likely return, Joe's working friend. Whether or not you can argue that, but I think more than likely return. Theo, Carrie, and Sherry will more than likely return as kind of like a cameo, kind of like the stories of Joe and Love, and kind of how they describe their encounters. Dottie is also their mother, so she's a possible theory. And Roald will also explain how he got trapped as well, so that's 5 candidates already. Jacob will even see Marianne. Marianne will be the only one of the few love interests to survive in the encounter with Joe, because when you think about it, almost every character Joe's ever been in love with has died. And the thing is with that is Marianne it was kind of a bittersweet ending because Marianne escaped, but in the process, Nadia got arrested. Now I think Marianne will step forward, and I don't think she's gonna let Marianne step forward and let Nadia stay in prison because they seem to get on. She did seem to like Nadia, and you know, she did originally love and care for Joe, but all that changed. So my theory on this one is Dahi. Maybe Theo comes back. Maybe Theo's the one to exploit it. Maybe Theo's the one to do it. Wasn't the biggest fan of Joe originally, so I think it'd be pretty cool if he did it, but the thing is, I think it'd be more interesting if someone very close to Joe did it. I think Theo's a suspect who is told that possibly could come back, but I think it's more kind of suspects, the closest people to Joe, it would make more sense. And again, Dahi will be a theory I have in a second. So the theory for Dahi is love's mother. Perhaps she's trying to take Joe down in secret. Her husband gave Joe a new identity, but I mean that could be used against him at any time in court. He could just come forward and say, "I give him my identity. It's mine." Maybe he was a undercover cop, so that way it was easier. Maybe they were undercover. They were sent in by the police, and maybe Jacob. I'm just saying, maybe Jacob. You're gonna hear me say Jacob a lot in this theory, but and they track down Joe, and Jacob doesn't have the evidence yet to convict him, but he knows it's his brother, but he has to get the evidence and he has to try and find clues. Confronting Joe, he's gathering all this information. So yes, he was losing at season 4, and the text messages, notice how in the text messages Reese quickly avoided them. He never said they were fake or real. So I'm going to say the messages are actually real. But what if, instead of Reese, Jacob is the one who's messaging him, or Dahi? Someone in his past is messaging him, and Joe's losing it. Reese is real. I'm not saying Reese, he didn't make Reese. I'm not saying that's true. He obviously did. I'm just saying the messages are real. After that, though, everything is down to Joe with this alternate persona Reese. So that's pretty cool to think about. I think Karen and Marianne will come forward because Karen's the only one of the love interests Joe's had who's just friends with Claudia and Paco. Obviously, he's never been obsessed with. So I think Karen, she'll learn what happened to Beck, and she will help Marianne. They'll team up. And the thing is with Claudia, Paco, maybe Paco, maybe Claudia's out the picture. Maybe she's not there anymore. But assuming she's still around, these 5 will team up with Jacob and will take him out. I think Dahi, their love's mother, and 40 could team up with them, but I'm leaning more to these 5 being pretty cool there. Particularly, I'm leaning more to Paco and Ellie joining because I think those 2 will actually team up. Marianne's just returned, so I think it's unlikely this will happen. The fate of Joe. So Kate covered his crimes, and I think eventually Joe will have enough, want power, and maybe tries to take her out. Kate's not going to have enough of that. She's going to have to try him. Because Kate Lockwood, the Lockwoods are some of the most powerful people on the planet. Because up until that point, Joe's never really had anyone with that kind of power. So, the thing is, 1, either Joe will be dead. 2, Joe goes to prison. 3, Joe gets away. And there are possibilities Joe's in prison for a little while, then gets out somehow. Or that. So I'm going to begin with the last one I said, which is Joe is in prison for a short period of time and gets out. So Joe is in prison for a short period of time by Jacob, and Joe makes it look like that he's the poor victim. Ellie and Paco were just kids, they don't know what they're saying. At the time, their memory is gone. The memory is playing up on them. Joe will say something to make him look like the victim. And Kate will cover up for him, and he'll get out. And then he will confront Jacob, and I think he may take out Jacob, or Jacob may take him out in self-defense. That's an option, but in the end, Joe gets arrested. So he would have been in prison for a short period of time and then get away. I don't think that's a likely option here because I don't think that's going to happen. Second option, Joe dies, Joe goes to prison. Joe gets away again. Joe gets away. I don't think that happened either because we've had 4 seasons from getting away. We can't keep. I believe him getting away would be interesting because you kind of see a villain, not necessarily every villain, not necessarily the hero always wins, but the things with that, it's kind of like Death Note with Light versus L. I think it would just be very easy to say that Joe gets away. So I think Joe won't get away. So Joe gets killed again. Let me explain how I think Joe dies. So I don't think this will happen, but let me explain. So Joe, he's confronted by Jacob in a room like Light Yagami is. And him and Kate are together. Kate knows everything, but how much Kate knows, we don't entirely know. Everyone Joe has ever met or wronged in the past will show up. So we have Karen, Marianne, Claudia, Paco, Ellie, Lady Phoebe, Roll, his friends, Mr. Mooney. Maybe put Sandy there too. And Joe will get called out by Jacob or Ellie or even Paco. And the thing is about that is I think Joe will deny it, and then Joe will end up having a melt and breakdown. The evidence, everything that adds up to, they call him out for this. And I think as Joe's having a mental breakdown, we'll not only see the alive people, but we'll see everyone who's died. We'll see Benji, Adam, Will, maybe 40, Delilah, in the background, Malcolm. But I think we'll see the love interests, Candace. But I think the two we will see in front of Joe, are 2 important people, and that is Beck and Love. We will see them in front of Joe. We will see them as he's having a mental breakdown, trying to explain himself, trying to defend his actions. Beck will say, "What have you done, Joe?" And then Love says, "You did this, Joe." All that, and to a different point. Beck will be the one to try and get Joe to turn himself in. Love will be the one to try and get him to get away and defend himself. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Love is the one trying to get Joe into prison, and Beck's the one trying to get him away. Because he's having that much mental breakdown, and Joe doesn't really know what he's going to do. So, there's 2 things. First, Joe takes his own life, which could happen, but I think that's more than likely. Joe turns the gun, and he gets shot in the process. So Joe, he takes a gun out, tries to shoot someone. His brother shoots him in the hand and ends up shooting himself, and that saves Joe. That's an option. Joe willingly comes to the police, which I don't think would happen either because I don't see him necessarily getting up like that. Or he gets shot in the process, and it's like a Light Yagami situation. He's running away. He dies slowly, and we see a vision of Love. So the final scene of Love and Beck. That could happen. So that's a possibility, and that is a possibility. But I think Beck and Love, for the end of season 5, they'll have to come back. I think, yes, we met Candace, but I think that Beck and Love are the 2, I think, who probably more than likely would come back. And maybe Lady Phoebe doesn't come back. Maybe Phoebe and Marianne is too soon. They just came back last season. So the first theory is Joe's called out and he either pulls the gun himself or somebody kills him in the process, so he dies. Or it's a Light situation. Possibly, that's the situation, but I don't think that would necessarily happen because, it could be an easy get out card for him. Another possibility is that Ellie was writing the text messages and confronts Joe later on. So maybe Ellie wrote the text messages and Joe just thought it was Reese. This would line up because Ellie knows who he is, knows him as Bull. Maybe she found out it was Joe when she encountered a kid named maybe Paco. Paco may have said, "Wait, Will? Like, yeah, this guy, Will." He explains who he is and is like, "That sounds like Joe." And then Ellie does some information who he is, realizes who he actually is. And because she's desperate, she still needs the money, but she doesn't say anything until years later. She's maybe in college at this point. She would be a little bit younger than Nadia was, so I imagine that's the case. Now, Ellie, she doesn't have to be anywhere nearby Joe. In order for this to work, she could be halfway around the world. She could be in a different location. She could still be in Los Angeles. She could be in New York. And it does that. And I think it's Ellie definitely more than likely will return because there was actually a plan, I think, season 3, for her to come back. I think they had a script and everything, but I think the thing with that is Jenna Ortega, the actor, brilliant actor, by the way. Jenna Ortega had scheduling conflicts. It was more to do with she was doing Wednesday at the time, so that's why she couldn't do it. Now, don't quote me on that. I believe that's why. I believe they did have a plan for her to come back, but let me on from correct me in the comments about that. But I believe there was a mention of her returning. So I think even if Paco wasn't, for whatever reason, going to come back to the series or something, I think Ellie definitely will be a key player taking out Joe in the series, and will be a key character taking her out. So there's that, and I think how cool would it be if Ellie or Paco is the one to shoot Joe, or Jacob, a younger character, a major character, shoots Joe. Maybe they take him out, and they go to prison for doing it. That's a possibility. Another possibility is an assassin or a hitman tries to take out Joe. Maybe Jacob can't arrest him in regular means, and a hitman or something has to take him out, and something like that could happen. That's a possible theory that could happen. Will Joe get away or not? It's debatable. Maybe, maybe not. My final theory is Joe goes to prison. So in this case, he is a light enemy situation. Everyone confronts him. His past comes back. He gets exploited and he gets arrested. And he's put in there for life. But unlike where he visits people and knows or sees people, I think this is going to be a prison cell where it's like he's on his own. Like Geralt, Grindelwald, and Harry Potter. Where we see him in a cell by himself and he's just in isolation. I think that'll be the worst punishment for him because he hasn't got anyone to obsess over. He's got no girl they can fall in love with. He's got no one to be obsessed over, no one to protect in his eyes. So I think that's what will happen. I think he will get arrested. I think Kate get arrested? Kate may get arrested or possibly killed. Or maybe Kate just has enough power or she gets herself out of the situation but she's able to save Joe. Maybe there's the evidence is that much against him that she can't do anything, or maybe he gets a reduced sentence. Either way, there's hundreds of ways this could end, because Joe's got that power now. He's got Kate by his side. Because when you look at Beck and Love, they did not have the same, Marianne, they didn't have the same power Kate did. They didn't have the same financial backup covering up their tracks, being very rich in that. So my final theory is Love will take out Joe. Now, I know this sounds crazy because Love was killed in the season 3, but this is going on the suspicion that she's alive. Now, my argument for her dying is there's an argument to be made that we never saw the body of Love, which means that she's still alive. I understand why people would think this, but first of all, Penn Bradley did confirm, I believe, that she is dead. The actor who plays Joe. Another thing to note is with Love is that with this character is we didn't see the body be exposed, we didn't see the body be destroyed or anything like that. But my argument to be made is we don't see Beck die on screen, and we don't see Beck's body being exposed by Joe. Which means that it doesn't necessarily mean Love's necessarily alive. And Joe exploded the house and cut his toes off. So let's say that Love did survive the initial encounter against Joe, and she would get up. So let's say she survived the initial encounter. She wakes up before the house explodes, I mean, there's a very small time frame for her to actually get out, actually escape, and then escaping somehow and get out. Now, the fact that Joe didn't see her, first of all, is just very odd, because if she did get out, you'd think that Joe got out. But the way that could work, maybe she thought it was a back door or something. We see a flashback on how she escaped. Maybe she prevented the fire a little bit longer. It's just by the question why she didn't get Henry, because obviously Love did really care about Henry. Henry meant everything to her. And the thing is about that is Love gets out. She raises Henry, or she might not, she might leave him there. Maybe she gets there, Henry's already gone. Maybe Joe took Henry, and she wants revenge to try and save her son, but also take out Joe in the process. Or she just wants to take out Joe and protect her son. So either one of them could work. So in order for this to happen, Love must be alive for this to work. So she escapes, she's in hiding, and she stays low for a very long time. She thinks of a way to get out, to get around Joe, to find him, and she realizes that her father gave an identity as Jonathan Moore. So Love is following Joe in London. She's wearing the hat, she's following around like he is, and she sends the text messages. Now, I know the text messages seem fake, but I just wanted to point out when Reese, the way Reese acted was like, the text message could easily be in your head. Like, notice how quickly he avoided that conversation. So I think the text messages are more important than people think they are. And yes, Reese was not real. That version of Reese Joe made, while Reese was a real person, that version of Reese he made wasn't real. So Love then takes out Joe. So I have three ways this will work. So either Love convinces Joe on her own, either Love's in the room and then confronts Joe, or she confronts Joe as he's trying to get away and she stops him. So my first theory is Love confronts Joe on her own. So Joe is on his own and thinking how to get around this, and there's no evidence. It's really, really a dire situation, and Love arrives. So part one is she has a baby, part two she doesn't. So in part one, where she has the child, she says, Joe, we could have been a happy family. We have our son. And Joe's surprised to see Love, and he says, I thought you were dead. All that. And it's like, no, I took you out, and I killed you. And Love says, you didn't. I survived. Like, yeah, you thought you did. And then Love explains how she was survived, how she got out. Maybe some 40 tour or something, I don't know. Maybe 40 tour. And Love explains she did everything for him. We were meant to be, but you had to destroy everything. And I have no choice but to save my son and be the paid person to unfortunately take you out. Joe then tries to deny it and defend himself. And Joe explains that you'll go to prison if you do this. Love says that she'll dispose of it and will make sure she gets away with it. She will do whatever it takes to protect her son. And Love will end up pinning the murders. She stabs Joe. She kills him. She knocks him out. I think she tortures him, puts him in the cage, and eventually she kills him. But I think she'll drag the body back to where near Kate's place, pin the murders on Kate. Love will mess with some files and make it look like that she's confessed to everything, a confession, everything. Kate was an accomplice, and she found out that Joe was doing all these killings, and she'd lost it. She couldn't handle it. Kate would then try to defend herself, saying she was framed. Nobody's going to believe her. And Love, it's kind of a bittersweet ending. She saves everyone, but lets somebody else take the fall. So she gets away. The possibility is maybe they both die. Maybe it's a kind of do or die situation. They both kill each other. That's a possibility. And then Kate raises the Henry, or maybe Henry's not in the picture. And the theory where Joe took Henry back, Love will confront Joe, similar to what I said. and kill him. Or she would threaten him to give up Henry. So there's that. Now, my second theory is Love confronts Joe while everyone's in the room being exploited. So this is very similar to my theory when Joe gets exploited by a similar light situation. He has a mental breakdown, and then Love says you're going through it, the process, the loop, and then, she hits him and says, why you killed me, we could have been a happy family. She pours all this onto him, and, sending money to Ellie. Paco, why couldn't you support me when I needed you? Why, like you did with Ellie. Maybe we're told more about why he, about the money situation. That's probably why. Financial situation, and then Ellie realizes Joe is helping me this entire time, as he said he would, which makes sense because I still get money from him, which kind of puts Ellie in a tough situation, but again, she wouldn't say anything to make sure that she gets paid. And again, Love will team up with Ellie. Love would even say that she'd send her money personally to help her if she takes out Joe. And I know a lot of people love Love as a character, but you gotta admit she was a bit unhinged. She was the closest thing we had to Joe. So I think it's pretty cool if she took out Joe. Either she stopped him and he got arrested, she killed him and she got arrested. That's a possibility. And it's basically saying to my first theory where I said that Love Beck is standing in front of Joe, but it's Love who's standing in front of Joe, and then we just see a vision of Beck in the future. We see a vision of Beck at the end of the scene where Joe's in the car and Beck's like, you really did it. You did it. You turned yourself in. You really had to screw everything over for Kate. You had to take her out, didn't you? And maybe at the end of the season, we see a vision. Maybe Joe's not that much of a mental breakdown. We see a vision of all the women, the main love interests, being Love, Beck, and Candace in the car. Even Marianne, maybe even Karen. And Joe's screaming and having a mental breakdown. That's a possibility. And my final theory is when Joe's escaping, Love will stop him in the process. So Love stops him, she either stabs him or injures him or something, and he trips and he's prevented that way. He stops, he's either goes to prison or is killed. Now I'm leaning more to the fact he goes to prison because it would be a lot more probably satisfying for those characters. Joe, as he's doing what he does, he changes identity to Will Bettelheim and Jonathan Moore, and maybe a new identity. Maybe he makes a new identity for himself, so it's harder to track. Nadia's out of prison, and so is Dr. Nikki. Assuming Dr. Nikki's still around at this point. Ellie is happy with her life, and Paco and Claudia are happy with theirs. Everyone's back to their usual, and Brandon is with Love and all that. Now that is just a possible theory. I believe Love is dead. I believe Love is truly and did die in that fire. But if you want to justify what happened, I'll make a theory on how she could stop Joe and she's alive at the same time. That's a possible theory. But I think ultimately that's what I think would happen. They're the theories I have in season 5U. And I'm more into the fact that Henry or someone, a younger character, someone important to Joe, stops him. Someone like Nadia, but does not confront Joe in the same way. And, that's kind of it for this video. I'm more leaning to the fact that maybe Kate stops him. Maybe Kate's the one who kind of stops him. So, if I had to pick a theory on how I think it'd end, I think Joe goes to prison, and I think we go with Ellie and Paco maybe take him out. That's probably what I think will happen. Somebody will take him out. Let me know how you feel about these theories. They're just theories and nothing confirmed. But if you guys disagree, let me know what are your theories in season 5 review. And if you enjoyed this type of videos, I can do more as well. So thank you guys for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, and enjoy the rest of your day, guys. And yeah, peace for all.